get off this podium, if you agree with what I say tonight, or this afternoon, and you're ready to take a stand, before I leave, I'm going to have everybody come up here, and we're going to stand and crowd around this sign, and we're going to take pictures. And we're going to let everyone know in the state of Texas and beyond that we would like to rid our state of C-scope and Common Core. You know, our children are under an illusion. A lot of us are under an illusion. A lot of our elected officials on both sides of the political spectrum are under an illusion. How many of you have seen the video, the YouTube video, Mr. Kid President? There's over 12 million people that have seen that video. And this video is of a little kid who is precious. And he gets on YouTube, kind of like my 9-year-old, and says, "Hello, YouTubers." They're taking videos of themselves. Well, he takes a video of himself that's called Mr. Kid President. And it's not political, other than he's making himself the president. And he's calling us to greatness. And he's calling us to be awesome. And this video, I urge you to go on YouTube and Google Mr. Kid President, because this kid does a great job. Well, it's interesting because who tapped into the talents and the genius of this little kid? Do you think it was, I know we're not supposed to be political, but do you think it was the Republicans or the Democrats who tapped into that little boy? It wasn't the Republicans. Actually, it was President Obama himself. He invited this young gentleman to the White House. And he's walking around and he's showing them the pictures of Lincoln and talking to him about the greatness of Martin Luther King. And this kid, who's a little black kid, is just, I'm in the White House. I am Mr. Kid President. Mm-hmm. He's now the spokes kid to children all across our nation. He's the one who announced and invited children to the White House for the Easter egg hunt. His initial video has over 12 million hits. It's not political. It's not religious. It's not faith-based. But he's reaching out and he's calling on adults to quit being boring and to be awesome. And these children, and I've pushed it out on social media. It made me feel good. But all of that is an illusion. Because people of ill will, or people who do not have the same drive and faith that we do in the Almighty. People who think that they are the Almighty are tapping into the greatness of this little kid. It's all an illusion. You know, I'm working with a group that started called CURE, Citizens United for Responsible Education. And it happened organically. It's moms and dads from across our nation who started seeing the curriculum and the standards that are in our nation. The Common Core curriculum that's being mandated and is in over 45 states in this nation. And these moms came together, and we get on a conference call every Thursday night. We've got people in this group in all 50 states who are banding together to find truth and protect our children. And there was a letter written by one of these women, Christina, and she's going to be watching this, so you did an amazing job. But I want to read you this. She started this letter, and it's addressed to the Southern Baptist pastors at their last meeting. And this group, CURE, which I'm a part of, we were calling on these pastors to push forth a resolution to stop Common Core. And Christina started out with this, and she asked the pastors, are you standing in the gap? Are you standing in the gap? Matthew 18:5-6 states, and whoever receives and welcomes one little child like this for my sake and for my name receives and welcomes me. Verse 6, but whoever causes one of these little ones who believe and cleave to me to stumble and sin, who entices or hinders him in the right conduct or thought, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be sunk in the depth of the sea. Ezekiel 22:30 states, and I sought for a man among them who should build up the wall. And stand in the gap. Before me for the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. So I ask you, are you willing to stand at the gap? You know, they didn't pass the resolution, they rejected it. And, you know, when moms and dads and citizens and pastors and people do stand up and we are speaking out, and then to see that happen, you're beaten down. But you know what? I had the chance to bring this to you today. And I may not have thought about it had it passed. I may have thought, well, that's done. Move on. So God has a wonderful way of calling us to action. And there are a lot of people who are under an illusion. Things sound good, feel good, and look good. But they're very dangerous because they are not of Christ. They are of man. The Common Core curriculum that's in 45 states across this nation, if you look at it and study it, and you look at the tactics that were used to put it into all 45 of those states, were an illusion. Former chairman of education in Texas, Robert Scott, was speaking in Georgia where he was talking about when they were trying to get he and Governor Perry to sign off onto these standards. They wanted Texas to sign off. And Chairman Scott asked, well, can I see them? Can I see the standards? And they said, well, they're not written yet. Hello? Sounds like you got to pass the bill to read the bill. And Chairman Scott and Governor Perry thankfully stood strong and said no. Our state representatives here in Texas said no to Common Core during this last session. A resolution was passed. We said no. There was a bill that was pushed forth with the tenacity of a mom in Corpus, Kira Sands, who called on Barry Smitherman and called on our elected officials and said, do you see what's in this curriculum? We've got to do something. But it's interesting because a lot of our elected officials thought that piece of legislation could never have passed. And they weren't willing to push. Because they understood the corruption that's involved in the Texas legislature. Of people who are in positions of power because they're paid lobbyists for Microsoft. In Texas, we're under the illusion that we don't have Common Core in the state of Texas. Folks, it's an illusion. Because the same tactics that were used to get Common Core into 45 states across this nation, C-Scope was put into 875 districts in the state of Texas. Oh, and they weren't written yet or proven to work. And the two groups of people that they use to marginalize are teachers and moms and dads. You don't know what you're talking about. We are the doctorates. We have our doctorate. We have our master's. We are the experts in education. Let us handle it. Teachers, you need to continue to do professional development so that we can train you. And you don't know how to write curriculum, so we're going to provide that for you. Well, I have something to say. I know that classical, traditional curriculum works.
Yes.
Math, reading, writing, the great literature, the Bible, works. It's been proven, time-tested, and it works. Donna Gardner would call it type 1 traditional education. That type 2 philosophy that Donna Gardner talks about, that's subjective, that brings our children together to collectively decide what the answers are. Actually, it's been proven not to work. The professional development team led by Linda Darling Hammond for Common Core curriculum at the national level, who's also on the professional development team for C-Scope in the state of Texas, she had charter schools in New York. They were shut down because kids could not read and write. So, are you willing to stand in the gap for our children? Because if we don't, our nation will be lost. It's that simple. So, I call on you now to join me on this stage around this sign, and we're going to get a photo op.